Giants at the Dolphins. Yikes.
Yikes.
We don't need this to be a one-off, right? The Giants fans are going to click into, I want to preview this game against the Dolphins.
I'll never underestimate the power of hate watching, you know?
True.
When your
I bet
team,
we have a lot of hate watchers.
When your team, well, not just us, but when your team stinks, you want to read all the analysis of how much they stink, you know? You want to listen to it. You want to bathe in the misery.
Everybody, if you're a hate watcher, just hit that thumbs up right now so I can see the tally if you're hate watching us right now. It's an 11-point spread here. Dolphins at home. It's not Miami in September, but it's Miami in early October.
What's the weather like in early October in Miami?
Still probably pretty hot.
Still hot?
Yeah. Probably hotter than East Rutherford.
Yes.
11-point spread here for the Dolphins. Will they bounce back against the Giants here?
You would think so. I mean, there's no evidence that the Giants defense is going to slow down this Miami offense. So that part should cook. And then it's like, can anything go right for the Giants offense? Because it's been miserable.
On one hand, I think it's safe to say that the Giants, was it I think somebody emailed this question, and it'd be a good GM question, but the Giants making the playoffs and winning a playoff game last year, was that the worst thing to happen for their future? It was it really was year one of the rebuild.
Yeah.
And we were sitting here, part of the reason why I missed all my picks last year is because things didn't make sense, right? The Giants kept winning, the Vikings kept winning, and it's finally reverting back now, right? Because the Giants roster, it's like, okay, they won all these games last year, and they're making some moves in the offseason. I want to say nice things about the Giants. Maybe Brian Daboll's a genius coach. How did they do it? Wink. They increased variability, and they hit the right side of it last year. And maybe they could do that again. And so even if you expected regression, it's like, well, they can't do that again. And the reality is they're in year two of a rebuild. The Giants. Year one happened to look great from wins and losses standpoint, and they also ran into the other team with crazy luck, and they beat them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But they're in year two of the rebuild. So maybe we shouldn't be surprised. I didn't think it'd be this bad, right? Nobody expected it to be this bad, though, for the Giants. O-line injuries, they can't block. Daniel Jones looks spooked. The defense can't cover. It's just, the defense was actually pretty good against the Seahawks the other night, but it's just all bad right now in New York.
Yeah, I think the problem is it changes expectations. That's the danger of what happened a year ago is you go from, it changes your timeline, it changes the expectations going into next year. Everybody expects you to be ahead of where you actually are. Now, the real problem is not that they're failing to meet the expectations that have been raised from a year ago. It's that they're failing to even stay where they should be and are just catching the bad end. They're not even treading water. They're going backwards hard, and the expectations have been moved ahead of where they should be. So now it looks doubly bad. But it is worth pointing out, that offensive line has been a mess. Ben Stockwell, our behind-the-scenes data guy who sometimes fact-checker on the podcast, he was like, if you looked at the five that were starting in that game, any of the five outside of Evan Neal, if you were that guy's playing in the second half of a preseason game, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. And honestly, even if you said Evan Neal, he's been left out there with the starters to play all through the game, it would still make sense. So effectively, they're running with a second half of a preseason offensive line. Of course, nothing is functioning. That can't work in the NFL. Those offensive lines are awful. That's what the Giants are playing with at the moment. So Jalen Hyatt's out there running 33 routes or whatever and barely seeing the football because they can't get it to him. They don't have the time to make that happen. He's basically a waste of time at this point being on the field because you can't put the ball in his general direction. Everything about this offense, nothing works because that offensive line is non-viable. We said before, Daniel Jones is right up there with Sam Howell in terms of number of sacks taken. I think he's the most pressured quarterback in the NFL through the first few weeks, and he's contributing to that himself. And even independent of the pressure that he invites on himself, when pressure arrives, he's still one of the worst quarterbacks at the NFL at fumbling it away and taking the sack. It's bad.
Yeah, I think you summed it up. Dolphins will look. The Dolphins, the first half of the game, they were pretty close with Buffalo. Sometimes it was a blowout. Buffalo just dominated from start to finish. Miami was there. There was a fumble late in the first half, and then Buffalo pulled away. But Miami's still a really good team. Every single week, I talk about the Giants blitz package. So now you're going up against. You're gonna bring the house. Not that it's not the same blitz every time, but you're gonna bring the house against a guy like Tua that has quick receivers who get open quickly, and he's a quick decision maker. it's high variance in that this could be, Dolphins drop 50 or the Giants, sneak a few turnovers in there against the Dolphins. But I think Miami's going to have success again offensively, and another week where maybe Miami's pass rush is going to look great going up against the Giants, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
that was the point I was trying to make earlier. Like, Seattle does not have a good pass rush.
No.
They have, but back-to-back weeks, they got to play Carolina's offensive line, the Giants' offensive line, and Daniel Jones, and now people are going to think Seattle has a great pass rush. Maybe they're better than we thought, but I think the bigger factor was who they went up against. Miami, you're going to come out of this week and be like, wow, Miami, they got that front four.
Well, they also showed yes, Seattle's pass rush is going to look good going up against this second-team preseason Giants offensive line, but they weren't taking chances either. They dialed up the blitz. They're like, not only we can probably beat you with 4, but just to be sure, we're actually going to start sending people as well. And Devin Witherspoon's going to come off the slot multiple times, and linebackers are going to come on the blitz as well. And that's working as well. So not only did they show that you can probably kick this offensive line's ass with 4 guys, but they also showed that it's very vulnerable to the blitz. It's not at all capable of identifying where it's coming from or how to patch it up and how to pick it up. So, Miami's defense, I think you could say, has been a little bit disappointing given the hype and given Vic Fangio and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like that's more than enough tape to give to Vic Fangio for a week and say, can you create a game plan that will destroy this offense? I suspect the answer to that is yes.
Just want to point out on the positive note for the Giants, Dexter Lawrence is still awesome at nose tackle. I love him. Love watching him. He's still really good and still a dominant player. 11 points.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I'll still take Miami right now.
Yeah, I'm going Miami as well.
It's football. We know it's not as simple as we just saw the Giants get smoked at home. Therefore, they're going to be bad forever. I think Brian Daboll will get them playing better at some point. I'm not sure when, but at some point the Giants will look better than they have. 3 out of 4 games have been a disaster.
How much room for this to continue the way it is do you think they have before the Daboll Daniel Jones thing becomes an actual issue? He looked pissed in that game.
He's firing tablets at him and everything.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
This is the flip side of the quarterback gets all the credit stuff, and when everything's going well, the quarterback's the only guy anybody's talking about. Well, when things are going badly, even if you have a second-team offensive line protecting you, when you heave the ball, for a pick six to a corner who's just standing there waiting for it in the red zone, you're going to take the crap.
Yeah, the O-line wasn't great last year, but they had a good run game. They had a good design run game. Their receivers were underrated and getting open. And Daniel Jones runs an offense pretty well. But you could tell things are not working for him right now, right? There were some sacks that were completely on him. If you see an unblocked slot corner, sacking you, it's probably on the QB. Pre-snap recognition, not throwing hot behind him. Other passes where he's leaving a clean pocket. And then there's other passes where he's got no chance. The screenshot I put up there, he gets to the top of his drop and the dude's on his back. So it's this combination of all this stuff that's ruining Daniel Jones. Not that he was great before, but we've seen him be serviceable and run an offense. He can't even do that right now. So it is a challenge. And, it's a challenge for the Giants who invested all that money in him, thinking they could build this ecosystem around him, and they have not right now. At some point they'll play better, but not in the next 2 weeks against the Dolphins and the Bills.
No.
So I'll take the Dolphins to cover the 11.
Yeah, I think I will as well.